Hey everyone, and welcome back to Sinnoh Build. Today is an exciting one as we're finishing up and adding final touches to Sandgem Town and a bit of its surroundings. We will be building a biking infrastructure, which I'm already starting as we speak, expanding the residential area and creating an upscale block of houses facing the ocean. Then we'll do some polishing throughout the town and cover that central park area with a stunning plaza inspired by elements and themes from Pokemon. And I hope you are enjoying the Sinnoh build so far, and I'm really glad so many of you have reacted positively to the project. As we keep progressing, I want to thank everyone who has supported the series so far. And if you are new to the channel and like this content, please don't hesitate to subscribe, leave a like or drop a comment. Every bit helps a lot with the growth, especially at this early stage. And without further ado, let's dive into the build and see what's happening in Sandgem Town. So, I was thinking about how Pokemon trainers typically travel around the region, and I realized I missed out on one important detail in the first town, biking infrastructure basically. And in almost every Pokemon game, especially in Sinnoh, you get a bike to cycle around, so I thought it would be cool to include it here, especially since we are still early in building of this island. So I just started placing these roads and decided to keep them on one side of the road. I'm not going to full on like the biking setups in the Netherlands, but it should be still convenient, I think. And now it's a bit of the risk, since I have no idea when biking mechanics will actually be added to City Skylines 2, but I'm hoping they will include it sooner than later actually. And when I played City Skylines 1, I always tried to add bike paths across the city to help with traffic, and I loved seeing people actually use them. But for now I'll have to come back and tweak those roads later once biking is fully implemented in City Skylines 2. And I hope you guys like me featuring this as well. For now we'll just focus on how it looks, and honestly I think it ended up to be looking great, especially when you zoom out. As for infrastructure itself, I opted for a green pass over here, which is pretty noticeable to both pedestrians and drivers, I think, and it adds some extra safety as we think about it. And I'll probably use a mix of green and regular asphalt going forward, and later in this video I'll be adding some special markings, so you will get to see a final look about how it all came together. Now, one challenge I've been facing is with the decals actually, and markings also, because they are decals. So after the latest update from the City Skylines 2 team, since they pushed that patch, decals have been behaving irregularly. They were either replaced by other decals or buildings, or they would move to random locations, which completely messed up some of my builds, especially the beach one and some others. And it was frustrating because if I placed any decal, then save the game, they would basically become corrupted in the next load, forcing me to redo the work, or yeah, to delete these decals for the best for now. So I'm hoping this gets fixed soon, and let me know in the comments if you are also experiencing this issue. From what I've seen on the forums, a lot of players are dealing with it too, and it seems like there is no cure and solution yet for this. On the bright side, there was this recent update to the game, finally. And it featured these French buildings that I think a lot of players already seen. If you haven't, just go check it out. It's a free pack on Paradox mods that you can download or use it already in your builds. And I haven't tried it out yet myself, but I've seen other creators using it, and I already know it will be basically featured in some of my builds, especially in Jubilife City. What I plan to use is this low rent housing, I think, in particular, that has nice style, and yeah, I think it will fit well in some certain areas in Jubilife. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to start seeing how it plays out in that city, which will be the next location that we'll be developing in the upcoming episode. What I'm fiercely looking for is to the upcoming Japanese pack, and last time I checked there was no a set release date for it yet, but I think it will take this island build to the next level, so I hope it comes sooner out than later. And until then, I'll keep experimenting with what we already have, which is actually quite a lot when you think about it. Despite some rough spots with crashes and decal issues, I'm really enjoying the development process, and the game feels like it's on a completely different level already, especially now as we mark a year since its release. And I think the upcoming German and UK packs, set to release in the next few weeks, will add a lot more fun to the game. And I'm really hoping they will feature some modernist architecture, at least in some parts, which could even work well for this build and some other builds that are, let's say, style-free. And fingers crossed they don't come with any new surprises for the builders who use mods like me, but let's see on that. For now, I'll tune in some music for you guys to enjoy while I'm finishing up the biking infrastructure, and after that we'll move on to building some residential areas. And before moving to the residential build, I placed this beautiful railway bridge. It's either from the bridge expansion pack or Titan's Rail Infrastructure Asset Pack, not entirely sure which one, but it uses the extra-dosed bridge structure from the vanilla game and applies it to rail tracks, and it looks absolutely gorgeous in my opinion. Now, with the housing, it's been pretty straightforward since I'm using the same technique as before, placing houses one by one, removing the default grass, adding custom fencing, and then editing the greenery and planting more high-rise trees. And I'll fast forward this part because I want to get to this street which is more special that I started working on, that runs closer to that tsunami barrier that we placed in the last episode. And yeah, along this street I wanted to add more upscale housing along with the two office buildings, custom pavement and parking. And yeah, I thought that these touches will make this street feel a bit more like special than the others in this town. Now, moving on to this spot, I wanted to design a more custom road layout, not just a straight alley, but something a bit more interesting. So the go-to recipe here was to add a roundabout and with some custom parking lot in front of it, which I'm going to extend a little bit later. And yeah, then in that upper left corner I also added some more custom parking, and that area felt like it called for something other than just residential buildings, so I ended up placing a few office buildings, and I imagined this would be a perfect location for offices overlooking the sea and offering some really nice spot for someone's workplace perhaps. And it ended up pretty well, I think, especially that I could kind of merge these two buildings into one bigger office, single-story office building. And of course the tiling does the most of the heavy lifting for detailing this area, as you're gonna be seeing me adding now. And yeah, adding these surfaces has been a game changer so far, allowing me to customize almost every area in the build. So I went for extensive tiling throughout the entire area, and I think the results turned to be pretty well. To make this tiling look less rough, I use a technique where I place a tiled transition. It's a lifesaver because otherwise you end up with those sharp angles on the surfaces, which can sometimes look a little bit wonky. And yeah, this transition covers it up really well in my opinion. I really enjoyed detailing this mansion to give it more luxurious feel. In the Pokemon games, there is a special class of trainers who come from wealthy families, which reflects the game theme of kind of capitalist journey where you train, win battles, and eventually become rich champion, admired as a success story by everyone in the game. And it's funny because these rich trainers often use pretty weak Pokemon, but when you defeat them, they reward you with a nice sum of money. And it's one of these little details that Pokemon games give you and that I really appreciate. Earlier, you may have noticed me placing a dog park, which I can imagine as a spot where people could train their smaller Pokemon in skills like climbing and jumping and else, and at least that's how I interpret it. There are also quite a few Pokemon that resemble dogs in the game, so maybe this idea isn't too far off from reality. For now, I think this area is more or less complete, and I'll add a few more details here, and then we'll move to the next build. And now folks, we are moving on to this next area that I wanted to fill in. So I placed this high school building last time to serve boss Sandgem and Sinnoh Region, and today we'll be adding some details to it. In the last episodes I created a large Pokemon battle arena in Sinnoh, which was a feature that I really wanted to spread across the region. Because in the Pokemon universe everything revolves around battles, so adding these arenas has been fun and gives a chance to make each one unique looking. It also makes sense to place them near educational arenas, I think, because as we know, battling is something young trainers learn at a very young age, and in the games we're not, following adults, but rather 10, 12 years old kids embarking on dangerous journeys that they only could survive with their Pokemon. So schools and colleges along the gyms are great spots for these arenas, I think, where you kind of learn battling also. And from this high school, I wanted to do something a bit different than previously. And I remembered that in the vanilla game there is this huge American football stadium asset. So I decided to incorporate something similar. a more compact but still fully functional running track, and a Pokemon Battle Arena that doubles as a football field, I think, with a little bit different markings, but still it's convenient multifunctional space for both students and the wider community here in Sandgem. Now, I know I'm eyeballing this a little bit here with measurements and trying to fix the lines if they look too uneven, but I actually enjoy this part, and as long as it doesn't look too odd when you zoom out, I think it's fine, because for now its purpose is purely cosmetic and just to add this extra touch from the Pokemon universe. But yeah, maybe in the future I'll pay more attention to exact measurements and uniformity of each individual field. Now, I'm really looking forward to placing arenas for the gyms, which will be coming up soon in the series. Once we finish layout and some central districts of Jubilife, I'm likely to move on to next city with the first gym, Orebur. For those unfamiliar, gyms in the Pokemon are where you battle a boss to progress in the story. There are 8 gym leaders, each specializing in different Pokemon type, spread across various cities and towns in each region of Pokemon game. And to complete the game, you need to defeat all gym leaders, then take on the Elite Four and Champion to become the regional champion, which is eventually the goal of the game. And the first gym is run by Rourke, who specializes in Rock-type Pokemon. And Orborg, as the name suggests, has a strong rock and mining theme to it. And with the industrial assets, mines and rocky elements available, I think we can do something really cool with Orborg and its gym arena. And I'm excited to start working on that as soon as possible. And again, as I mentioned, I will probably take this little detour from building Jubilife just to, take on this Orborg city build as soon as possible. And now I'll finish quickly this arena, and then we'll move on to detailing this part of Sandgem with some rural assets and a little gas station that I'm gonna place soon. Alright, moving on to the next part of the build, we are going to place down a small petrol station. I'll also swap out the bright asphalt for a darker version, since the contrast between surface colors feels a bit off here, unless of course it's a brick surface or something similar. I really enjoy placing these petrol stations because to me they add an extra layer of realism to the build, and I appreciate that the game devs included a ton of these assets which can now be easily placed on the city, environment with the plop tool. So Sandgem will feature 2 petrol stations to serve drivers' needs and be those convenient spots where you grab a quick snack on the go and so on. So yeah, I really like placing these assets. They add this little difference in my opinion. And for the housing I placed here, I didn't do much except position them at different angles rather than having them all face the road directly. It adds a variety to the town's layout, I think. In the games, you have the houses of secondary main characters, either Dawn or Lucas, depending on who you choose to play as. And I haven't focused much on marking their specific homes yet, but these characters have dedicated houses near the lab, somewhere there. So maybe in the future I'll come back and add a sign or something similar to mark them, as one of the subscribers suggested actually, and also for the main character in the Twin-Lift town. So for now we can imagine that Dawn or Lucas, depending on who you choose again, lives nearby, just like in the game. And before we jump into building this agricultural corner, I'm going to place some commercial centers along the town's border to create more jobs. Right now the job to citizen ratio is about 2:1, which is nice because there is no unemployment, but not ideal because some of these jobs aren't really being filled. So I'll definitely need to boost the population ASAP, which we'll focus on in the next episode. And for this area, I wanted to introduce some different agricultural layouts. While I like the assets that the game provides, I also enjoy using these custom farm assets from the mod, and they allow for more customization, making each farm look unique. I imagine these 2 farms here are part of one large farm, but they rotate usage as in real life. And this year the right side farm will be in use, while the left one will remain empty but still visibly farmland. Here I'm trying to capture a bit of how farms look from an aerial view in Japan. When I traveled around Hokkaido Island, I noticed that farms often follow these rectangular shapes, especially in flatter areas. But I also like to mix things up with a different technique, which you'll see me using later, placing these farms in uneven shapes with forested areas. It creates a blend of structured and natural shapes, making the area feel more organic. Of course, it's a bit different from the farms in the United States Midwest, where fields are often strictly geometric, sometimes ignoring natural boundaries. And on the other side of the world, in Japan, people tend to work with nature as guiding force, often letting the landscape set boundaries for development. Where they could, they created neat, evenly shaped forms, but where the landscape was too limiting, they adapted, allowing the land itself to define the geometry. This respect for natural boundaries gives Japanese landscapes a unique balance between structured and organic shapes. And before we dive into the next major project of this episode, the Elements Plaza, I'll fast forward through the building of the rural residential and a few commercial areas on the other side of the town. And now we're getting to the build which I'm really excited about, and I called it Elements Plaza, and I think it turned out beautifully and really ties together the different parts of the town. The idea to place the plaza here has been in my mind since I first laid out the road network, though I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do with it. And then I came up with the idea of Elements Park, inspired by the different Pokemon types, which I thought would be really nice to implement here. And originally I thought of including all 18 types from Pokemon Universe, so I divided the park into around that number of sections. But then when I got to types like Fire, Poison and Dark, it started to feel like too many colors on this little plaza. And I also realized that park representing all types might be more fitting for the main city or capital of this region, Jubilife. So here in Sandgem I decided to focus on 7 types instead: water, steel, rock, ground, grass and normal. That will be represented by this neutral area a bit off to the center that features a small battlefield that you're gonna be seeing quite soon. This gave me a lot of inspiration to how design and fill each section, which we'll start doing right now. And dividing this park into smaller sections allowed me to creatively fill the space with all essential features for a park, like food stalls, stables, a children's playground, and a gym area that you're gonna see me doing in a short while. You'll see how this all came together. And I started by filling this rock type area, which was fun to design using this river bed surface and adding a few natural rocks. And especially I loved using these rocks covered in bushes. I'm pretty sure they're part of Dom's assets, but they're also separately available in the decoration menu. And I ended up placing them wherever they were fit because they add a really nice touch to the park environment. So for this water type area, I initially aimed for a wavy ocean-like feel, but then I remembered some water surface assets on Paradox mods that I'd been wanting to try out. So I'll end up reworking this area a bit later, but for now though, you can see the initial layout and how it started to take shape. After finishing the first version of the water area, I moved on to the steel type section where I experimented with various steel themed assets. I especially liked using the pipes that you're gonna see me putting later, which add a nice industrial touch. And the stairs also worked well here. They might not be completely steel, I think, but they serve as a great viewing point that I think people would enjoy. I wanted this part of the steel area to be a spot where you can grab a snack and sit down with friends, and I think overall steel ambience adds a unique style that some people, especially steel type trainers, would really enjoy. Next up was the ground area, which clicked in my mind as a playground, a little play of words, and so I decided to design it as a simple space where kids and their parents can come and enjoy some time in the park. The grass area was straightforward, just a space filled with lots of greenery, manicured grass, and cozy spots under big trees where people can relax. Especially in the hot summer months, I think these shaded areas would become a real lifesaver for some people. I outlined the borders with some of the dome's rock assets as I previously used in rock section, and then sprinkled bushes and trees around just to complete the final look. And now comes the part where I replaced the previous wavy theme with a large water reservoir, or two of them. And to do this, I used these walkways with activated retaining walls, I think, similar to what I did in the train station to have this kind of plaza feel. And this has let me create nicely curved sections with elevated stone edge, which I filled with a smooth water plane and surface, which I think turned out looking really cool in the end. And then it was just about covering the walking paths with different surface and placing benches around for people to relax and enjoy this center of the park. I used similar techniques to fill in the remaining areas and keeping, this uniform look across the plaza, and I'll fast forward through the rest so you can enjoy the detailing process. So yeah, this is the final result for the plaza. I think it turned out really nice, and with all these small spots where people and maybe even their Pokemon can enjoy some recreation. I'll definitely enjoy spending time here myself if I ever visited Sandgem Town. And lastly, for the finishing touches, I added some extra surfaces and few agricultural areas. And with that, the Sandgem Town was officially more or less complete. Now, I have an important announcement to make. This past week, while editing the video, there was a major hack involving one of the most commonly used mods, traffic mod. An unauthorized update introduced a potentially malicious file onto any computer that had this mod installed and updated automatically, as I think many players keep this option on, affecting basically everyone who used it earlier this week before they pushed a new update with this file deleted. And yeah, to secure my PC and, anything potentially that file could get to, I decided to completely reinstall Windows and reset my computer in quite radical way. Unfortunately, that meant that I would lose some files, and I really thought that I have my save files in the cloud for this build, but it ended up to be not true. So that means I'll need to completely rebuild what has been done so far in the next few weeks. And yeah, before that, I cannot progress to the next city, I think. And thankfully, the entire map of Sinnoh is on Paradox mods, and I think it doesn't really need it to be updated or anyhow else redone, so I can just download it and start building again, which will take some time to do. And guys, this is quite a setback, and it's been like 2 months, and 2 months of work are quite lost. But I'm not giving up. I'm committed to finishing this project, even when there are these kind of obstacles. And I should have checked and backed up my save files, but when facing a potential security threat, it's easy not, to think over such things, and just for the sake of security of your financials and data, you make such decisions. There is still no explanation to the nature of this malicious file, which I was trying to get in the Discord server and, seeing how people react about it. So far, there is nothing. And I also encourage everyone who faced this issue to stay safe and take the necessary security precautions, even if they feel drastic. And that said, I would like to thank everyone for their incredible support so far. I have some cinematics prepared for you guys, and I'll keep you posted on how the rebuilding goes. And just know, guys, without your support and so far this kind of engagement, I wouldn't even think about rebuilding it after losing it. But I have this motivation now, which keeps me going. So take care for now. I'll see you in the next update and episode, and goodbye.